to this week's episode of Ryder Reality's podcast. It's Tuesday Tips. Today I'm here with Esta, Ryder, and we're going to be talking about hiding the chaos because we are moms and we know that we don't live a perfect cookie cutter life, and we want to help sellers trying to sell with crazy kids and all the chaos. So we're calling it Hiding the Chaos.
So, Katelyn, when you guys sold your first starter house,
yes,
how old were your kids?
Kason was not born yet. I was like 5-ish maybe months pregnant or something. And Charlotte was just turning a year old. I just turned a year old. When they're at that age, there's fingerprints all over your wall. There's milk stains on your couch. We have a dog, so I don't know, footprints from the mud because it was the fall, winter, just so many crazy little things. So the first day that our house went on the market, I didn't want any showings that Friday because I wanted to finish cleaning and I had dishes piled to the ceiling. And my showings were supposed to start Saturday. Well, I got a text from an agent that said, hey, I have people out of town. Can I see this house in like 2 hours?
Oh, no.
I was actually supposed to be in the office working that day too. And that's where I texted you and was like, can I clean my house? Can somebody cover for me? And you're like, we'll figure it out. Just do what you got to do. So then I think my in-laws came and got my kid, Charlotte. And then I just had at it and was able to do it. But some tips for things that you might not notice daily. And then when you're selling your house, other people might notice, I think is where we're wanting to go with this.
Yeah. Well, let's back up and let me tell my story too. So when we sold our last house, I had a not quite 3-year-old and not quite 1-year-old. And so I remember taking pictures of our house and I'm literally moving his toys from one end of the room to take a picture, checking it on my phone to make sure that you couldn't see the toys, and then moving them to the other room to get the picture. So the pictures looked fine, but there was chaos just on the outside of the picture you couldn't see.
I took my pictures one room at a time. I would clean one room, take the picture, let her destroy that room, clean the next room, take the picture. So I did something similar.
And I remember I have the details mixed up, but taking the boys to my girlfriend's house who lived right down the road to play with her kids. And then somehow I got locked out of my car and I ended up coming back from her house pushing an empty stroller. I don't know where my husband was. I just remember being so mad and thinking, these people think I'm crazy. I'm walking down the road with an empty stroller to find out that they did not come because they didn't like the location of our house. And I'm this is a small, not even a stoplight town. You know where my house is. If you don't like the location, I'm so mad. And so that was very frustrating to clean up the chaos with 2 little kids, make arrangements to get them out, and then someone not come. So I know that can happen sometimes too. But for sure, I think part of it is making the chaos, hiding it or coming through it and noticing things some people wouldn't notice. So my sister-in-law, they're getting ready to move, and she just rented a storage unit, which isn't always practical for people, but could be helpful. Katelyn, when do you advise your buyers to rent a storage unit as they're trying to prepare their house for showings?
I guess it would just depend on the situation. But I think that renting a storage unit for people that have a lot of large pieces of furniture, that's a good idea because sometimes they have too many big pieces in a room and it makes the room look way smaller than what it is. So I would say I advise it in that situation, or maybe if your kids have 7,000 toys and you don't want to get rid of the 7,000 toys, but they only play with a couple of them, maybe to eliminate some of it. Or if you have something, I don't know, weird in your house, like Charlotte is getting a balance beam for Christmas and it folds up and it's small and stuff, but do you want a balance beam in your living room?
Or some kid to fall off of it and get hurt.
Yeah, or something crazy like that. I would say get that kind of stuff out of.
And anything that's breakable, that's special to you, whether it is something your kid made, it's one of their toys, it's something that's not even child related at all, that would be good to get out and put somewhere safe.
Yeah. If you don't have the funds to do something like that, it could be just putting it in your garage or putting it in your storage room in your basement or just hiding it in different areas like that to make the house look staged without actually having to stage it.
Something that I notice at someone's house who has little kids is when they have, this is so nutty, but I notice this, is when they have their baby bottles out on the counter on like a drying rack upside down.
Yeah.
So the counter is super clean. The house is super clean. And they're clean. The baby bottles are clean, but I'm just like, why don't you just put them away under the sink for somebody who might not have, not under the sink necessarily, put them away.
Yeah.
For someone who might not have a baby and think, oh, this is taking up space, or...
Yeah, this makes your counter look small. Or...
Yeah, and sometimes for me, it was more of I would see those and remember nights I didn't sleep. So my mind is going to a completely different place, and I'm like... Baby bottles, this is not a relaxing kitchen I'm showing this house. Even though it was perfectly spotless, this was reminding me of not sleeping super well, or just dumb things like that. So I would say even if things are clean, like try to put them away. Or if you have baby formulas or all these things that babies can have, bottle warmers and all the things, even though it's not chaos because you use it and it's clean and organized, I think the more of your counter space you can show, the better.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And if it means shoving all of your stuff in the oven, you do what you gotta do.
or under the bed or whatever.
Yeah, and your dishwasher, things like that can help maybe hide the clutter a little bit if you're running out of space.
Yeah.
So some cleaning tips. I'm a terrible housekeeper. Esta, all right, what do you think? How are your skills on housekeeping?
It depends if it's the day my cleaning lady comes or not. I mean, honestly, that's the truth. It's weird because the things I notice are, and I might not even always notice them in my own house, but I guess some things that I remember one time showing a house where the light switch, like actual switches, were so dirty. They were covered in like black grime that I didn't even want to turn the lights on. Yeah. And I probably would never have noticed those since then, but that experience a number of years ago was so gross to me that now I always notice like if an outlet cover needs to be wiped off or the light switch needs to be wiped off. I'm pretty good at cleaning off my ceiling fans because I noticed that at other people's houses where you can see if my thought kind of goes right or wrong, goes, oh man, their ceiling fans are like this thick of dirt or, whatever. So they must not clean as often, or when they're clean, it's like, oh, they must have a clean house, which doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's just something little like that you could clean off that would make a difference to the buyer or seller. What do you think? No,
I definitely agree. And remember too, this isn't like your friends coming over. Like when I go to my friend's house, I'm not noticing their ceiling fan. We're talking about people coming into your house, literally sole purpose is to judge that house. So just things to think about to make your house presentation. They're not judging you. They're just trying to judge the house and if it's been taken care of and things like that. Something that I particularly notice in houses is the dog hair on the baseboards. Oh, yeah. That one's a trigger for me. It's just like sometimes then it's like everywhere. And then like if your client has allergies, they're like, oh no, I'm going to have to rip up all the carpet and repaint everything to get the smell out or the odor or the dandruff or whatever their concerns are. So I definitely noticed that one a lot. And then the fingerprints I notice in my own house, and it drives me insane, all over my sliding glass door and the muddy dog prints all over the door. And then that, honestly, like it breaks up the room. If you have a clean window, people look out it and it makes the view look nice. It makes the room look bigger. But then you have this dirty, smeared up window and it just doesn't have the same effect on the room.
And again, I think since you're talking about dirty, smeared up windows, it's important to say that if you are living in your house, like, and not selling it, this is not a guilt trip. Because my front living room window is so smudged up because my dog sticks his little nose up against it to look outside. My husband keeps saying, we need to clean it, we need to clean it. And I see it and I'm like, oh, I love my dog. Like, I know I can't see through it, but it's kind of a dark room anyway. I just don't get that fired up about it. If I were selling my house, it would be different. Yeah. Absolutely. And to me, I know it needs to be cleaned and it is a view blocker, but I know that it reminds me of my puppy and 5 seconds later, it's going to be that way again anyway. So this is not, how do I keep my house clean so I'm not sloppy? It's more, hey, if I'm selling, when you're living in your house, you don't notice things. So this is what a buyer could notice. So here are some tips that way.
Absolutely. I do not make my beds, but maybe once every 3 months if I'm lucky. Probably more like 6 to 8 months actually. And that's definitely a huge thing, just to make a room put together and to not look messy or small or whatever the case may be. So making beds.
So here's something weird. As I'm sitting here telling you that I am not cleaning the window, that my little dog is getting his little nose all over. I am really funny about a bed. I actually have a lot of OCD tendencies. And when I see a bed, I expect the sheet to be and all of the bedding to be in a perfectly straight line, equal all the way around. And when I make my bed, which is not why I don't make it every day because I don't have time to do this, if it's not perfect, to me, it's not made.
Yeah.
So if I walk into a house I'm showing and their bedding is like crooked, then I'm like, oh, it's crooked. I'm not crazy. I know that is so weird, but that's like my weird thing. And
you're not alone. I know there's people like that, but I am not as OCD with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't notice those little things. I'm better at looking at a bigger picture, but you're not wrong.
Well, and that's why it's good to have tips like that, because we have somebody who, you know, it's like, I'm not a crazy, awesome housekeeper by any stretch, but then I have weird things I think of too. So, like, here's another one. This drives me crazy. Toilet seats go down.
Yes.
Down.
Shower curtains closed, toilet seats down.
Especially for pictures.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how many houses are on the MLS when the toilet seats are up. So that is my little thing.
Speaking of bathroom pictures, so this isn't necessarily the seller's fault. If your agent has a picture and you can see your agent in the mirror in the bathroom, that drives me insane.
Yes, that is 100%.
Make your real estate agent retake that picture.
Yes, that is 100% agent fault. That drives me crazy. I remember seeing a house years ago that was for sale, and the agent posted a picture with a cat on the counter. Just like, really? Like, kitchen counter, you couldn't take the cat down, or, you know, try it again. Or this isn't like the era where we're taking our photos to get processed and we don't know until they come back, right? Like, it's easy to see that has happened. That's another one that drives me crazy.
It's a little off topic, but it goes
but important.
So my own house, when we bought our current house, it didn't have closet doors on any of the closets for whatever reason. So we were supposed to get carpet, and it got delayed, and the carpet didn't go in until after we moved in. And we couldn't install closet doors until after the carpet was done. So to this day, we have closet doors in one bedroom and not the other two bedrooms, because it's just one of those things we've just not taken the 10 minutes it takes to install the closet doors or whatever it is. But our closets are the first thing that I look at when I go there, and it makes me feel overwhelmed and messy because whose closet is perfect? Well, mine's not, and it needs reorganizing. It's kind of littler. So if your closet doors need definitely put on closet doors.
So here is an interesting one as well. We had an episode with a stager talking about different things to do. And part of that conversation was, she's like, minimalize the stuff, don't put personal things up. And I've heard that for years, and I still tell my clients, it's not that big of a deal. Like, to me, a house feels like a home when there are family pictures up, versus feeling cold and sterile kind of to me if it has too much of a staged look, which is kind of weird that I'm saying that, because it's completely opposite of what the home stager said, who we had on our podcast. But to me, the personal pictures make it feel like someone's home that's inviting. I don't have a problem with that. Now, if they're down, that's fine too. But I'm not going to tell someone to take them down if they want to have them up. So that's just my little opinion.
So I'm a little torn on that, because sometimes it drives me nuts when clients are coming through and they're just staring at the pictures, and it's like, we're not here to see what Joe and Diana's life is like. We're here to see this house. And then on the flip side too, like, if the seller has a whole gallery wall of all these pictures, when they take them down, is there just going to be nails in the wall? Are they going to have to repaint that whole wall?
Yeah, I think the gallery wall can be a lot, for sure.
So it is a lot, but then like, also, what if they don't have that paint color anymore? You know what I mean? Then you need to just keep it up, I think. So I'm kind of torn on that one, on what my advice is. But like, pictures on your nightstand, take those off. That's just clutter, less things to look at, things like that. If it's like a foldable one, but the wall ones I get torn on.
Well, and I'm like, oh, these are pictures of my family. Like, I just get really emotional about it.
Now, everything on your fridge, clear off.
Now, see, mine's full. Ruthie's laughing right now because we're the stagers there, and I'm like, but I like, because we have magnets everywhere we've gone on vacation. We just get a magnet, and they're all over my fridge. And I actually learned that from one of my sellers, and I love it. And they're up, so it's very full. But to me, it's like a part of us. And it would drive me crazy, even if I was a seller for 3 months, to have to feel like it's my house for just a few more months, and I have to tear my personal stuff out of my soul,
a small fraction of time.
Yeah, I guess.
It's worth it. So I think the other thing to think about, I know we just kind of told you guys to stuff some stuff in your cupboards, but buyers do tend to look in cupboards to see if it's got like good storage or if this is a lazy Susan or whatever. You also don't want it to be open a cupboard and all the stuff just fall out, because that's giving the impression your house is busting at the seams, you're overgrowing it, and then the buyer's starting to think, oh, are we gonna outgrow this here soon? So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I think that's true. Just to have it organized. It doesn't have to be like super, super organized. So again, where people are focusing on your organization and not your cupboard, but definitely organized enough where the food's not going to fall out on them or whatever that might look like.
Yeah.
And I also think that you can just remember to wipe down baseboards. Just remember to, like you said, wipe down windows, wipe down cupboards, because when you're in there, you don't really notice. I had a chore for my boys of wiping down cupboards. It was not a hard job. They were all old enough to do it. This was a couple years ago. And I just told them to use like a wet wipe. I just kept a package of them under the sink. And I remember all it amounted to was they were still, if it was like something hard to get off, like a little spot, it was still there, surrounded by little white shavings of the wet wipe. So I ended that. But I know that is something that people need to do regularly to keep their cupboards just looking nice. And that's one thing to do, like especially a cabinet that you pull a lot. If it might have, you keep syrup in there or whatever, your door handles can get kind of sticky. Just have that wiped down.
No, I definitely agree.
And there are cleaning services that you can use where it's not that terribly expensive to have somebody to do it for you.
Oh yeah, and your realtor can totally hook you up with that too if it's just better for you just to hire somebody and get it done and over with.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about before was, I'm going to have the word wrong. I'm going to say, diaper genie.
Yes.
I know, we said this before, I know they're not supposed to smell.
They stink.
I had like 2 or 3 of those, and I'm like the good quality ones, and I felt like they always stunk, and I would just get rid of it and get another one, as I had the next child or whatever. Yeah. And there are times that they don't smell, but there are also times that they do. So if you have one, just be aware that they're not, I don't know if it's certain brands or what, or how that works, but they're not always, smell free necessarily.
Right. Definitely change those before showing. And remember that like smell is a sense. Like people find an emotion attached with smells. Like people don't realize that that's like a very sensitive emotion in your brain and all that fun stuff. So I definitely agree that any kinds of smells and neutralizing a house in general is like the biggest thing you can do to hide the chaos.
Yeah. And speaking of smells, be cautious that something that you like a smell of, somebody else might not. Yeah. So, it's supposed to be an air freshener, not an air cover of whatever is in
neutralizer, more than enhancer.
So it should be like, this smells good as they're breathing in to smell it, not where they're plugging their nose because it's so strong. Even if it's a good smell, you can have too much of a good thing.
Right, absolutely. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you, Esta, for talking with me about all of the chaotic things in our life. And we hope that you subscribe, like, share, comment, send us some emails with what you want to hear, and we'll talk to you next week.